sanctuary cities and shut down Democratic speakers at the podium. At another time, attending a city Democratic rally, he was ushered out of the meeting by the police, accompanied by cheers from the room. He has a unique way of doing things. And at times, the Republican Party has disavowed going.
Yeah, we know. We know.
I believe he is a believer in the aphorism that says, always be yourself, because the people that matter don't mind, and the people that mind don't matter. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Arthur.
Thank you. Would you mind being the camera person? It's all set. It's already live. So.
Uh-oh, it's already live.
Now it was reacting.
So
okay.
That, just to make sure, yeah, everything's all set. And it's
Wave, everyone.
That's
Okay.
my YouTube live that they haven't been able to shut down yet. Yeah. So, you know, it's, yeah, again, my name is Arthur Shopper. Everybody gets it wrong. So just like going shopping, that's what I always tell people. And I'm really honored that I can speak to you guys tonight. I thought I was only going to be able to speak for a couple of minutes because there were going to be other speakers, but just to show how dynamic our bench is for statewide office, I'll put a brief shout out for Jack Guerrero, who is running for state treasurer. I think he really has a shot at getting in the top two. There's one other Republican who is like a perennial candidate. There are two major Democrats that I know will pull the vote apart, so he wasn't able to be here. I just knew, you know, from looking over previous notes, and I just, brief shout out, we've got a Republican for every statewide office. Let's make sure we can get behind one. I'm supporting Travis Allen. I hope the rest of you are too.
Yay,
I think it's good that, you know, the president made his decision, but we get to remind the whole country, MAGA, the Make America Great Again, the Make California Great Again, that's our agenda above all, not just the president's. And he started something, but we keep it going. So I want to really speak to that. So, you know, it's, I think one of the challenges that we have faced as conservatives is how vicious the press tries to be, ends up becoming, to try to silence people. And I think it's unfortunate that that was the introduction that was offered, so I'd like to correct the record. The Los Angeles Times made some, you know, unfounded remarks about me and others. The Orange County Register interviewed me about our work in going after sanctuary cities here in stopping SB 54 in Orange County. And she did a much better job, because I was able to correct a couple things. First of all, I was the president of the Beach Cities Republicans, and our charter was revoked. Our charter, wasn't mine, because I was a Trump supporter, and because I thought that Latinos for Trump deserved prominent attention.
Yes.
Marco Gutierrez was my keynote speaker, along with 3 others. And I had 2 members of the county party say you need to cancel the meeting. And I refused. So when you have a backbone and you stand for what's right, there may be some flack, but it's worth doing. We have a model for that. It's our president. And so there's the first thing. And the second thing, I think it's unfortunate if people start out saying, well, Mr. Shopper's just an arbitrary disruptor. Well, first of all, we have a legislature that's disrupting our rights. We have a legislature that doesn't seem to honor their oath of office. And about the perennial issue, which comes to illegal immigration, yes. But all of you should be aware, they've just passed a law in the Assembly that would essentially outlaw the Bible.
Yep.
Now, I'm sorry if people find that disruptive, but I carry that title nobly if that's what it comes to. So I just find that unfortunate, and I want to correct that record. So you'll find I'm outspoken. I'm not afraid to hold people accountable when they say things that are a little misleading. So, I'm really glad I can speak to you about the fight against sanctuary state. Because you all live in this county where we saw the fight really take off. Los Alamitos, we saw the second shopper around the world. But I want to correct the record slightly. 2 weeks ago, I was up in North State, specifically Siskiyou County, and just south of it is Tehama County. These 2 jurisdictions actually opted out first. The boards of supervisors just did it without even being told to or forced to. They just did it of their own, and they supported their sheriffs, and they said, we want you to work with ICE. We don't care what the state legislature does. Now, as you know, the media didn't talk about it. You're probably the first time hearing this, and it's from me, because I actually met with the board. in Siskiyou County. And they said, we already did it. Like it's just our job. And that's really the attitude we should be expecting from all of our elected officials. But that doesn't diminish what Los Alamitos did. What they did was comprehensive, forceful, and bold. They passed their own ordinance as a charter city. They are facing incredible pressure. We saw the mayor and also the mayor pro tem at the round table with President Trump earlier this week. How many of you saw that round table?
Yes, yes,
If you
I
haven't, you
did.
need to watch it, because I cried when I saw that.
Yes.
Finally, our president and major policymakers are at the table talking about issues that are so close to us. What is government for but to protect our rights? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness? And SB 54 and the sanctuary state law are militantly attacking this.
Yes.
If anything else, we should see every person in Congress, Democrat and Republican, marching into this state. And I wouldn't mind having the military coming in just like they did after the Civil War in the South, if that's what it's going to take. So, earlier today, I was in downtown Los Angeles. I was with a group called March for Our Rights, and I spoke about SB 54 and how sanctuary jurisdictions are undermining our rights, undermining the Constitution. And I started out with a story. It was June 16th, 2016. The primaries were over. President Trump was going to be our nominee. I was a little unsure at first. I said, I'll vote for him. I was never going to be a never Trumper. Okay, he was not my first choice. Ted Cruz was my long-term choice. Before that was Scott Walker and Bobby Jindal. I didn't trust Trump. He was an unknown commodity. I was at an abandoned warehouse in the Westlake section of downtown LA, near MacArthur Park, the same place where Kevin De Leon's family members buy false IDs and get stolen social security numbers. This warehouse was set on fire by an illegal alien named Josue Sanchez. 5 Americans were murdered at that warehouse. And I stood there and I could see the building, I could see the smoke stains coming out of the windows, I could still smell the stench of that burned building. 5 Americans were murdered, including one named DeAndre Mitchell, who rushed into that building to try to save the other 4 Americans. One lady, she died, but her body was preserved enough that she could get a proper burial. Her name was Tiara Stansbury. 2 of those individuals were foster parents, meeting with their foster son. His name was Joseph, and Tiara was his girlfriend. Illegal immigration, sanctuary cities have an immense public cost. And yet it happens so often now that the media doesn't even report on it. That's one of the reasons why I'm wearing this shirt. This is Ruben Morphine, 13-year-old boy who was executed by an illegal alien. This was in December 29th, 1990, 4 days after Christmas. Shot in the back of the head by an illegal alien gangbanger in Salinas, California. And what was Ruben's crime? He said to the gangbanger, when he asked the question, where are you from? He said, I am an American. And the illegal shot him in the back of the head. Being an American should not be treated as a crime. Being a citizen is a high calling. It is a right that we have by God, or a privilege for those who come legally. And sanctuary jurisdictions make a mockery of that. As you all know, Los Angeles is a sanctuary city. So where was the sanctuary for Tiara Stansbury? San Francisco, a sanctuary city as well. And where was the sanctuary for?
Kate.
Kate. We all know. We can call her by her first name, Kate Steinle. Ruben, Salinas, California. I was just in Monterey County earlier this week, meeting with other patriots. They have a desire to fight back. They just wanted to know the tools to fight the fight. And I showed up there, told them what steps to take, how to do it. We made a great showing at the Board of Supervisors, and we also went to Monterey City Council. We actually got in the news. The news has ignored this cohort, this group of Monterey patriots fighting against Sanctuary City. And the media wasn't too thrilled at first. They tried to blow us off. I held the press accountable. I even dressed them down publicly in front of the other members of our team. We have one lady named Dawn Jones. She's the leader of that coalition. And she said with just, you could hear the hurt in her voice, I don't feel safe here. Salinas, California, 150,000 residents. The gangs have completely taken over. They even told me, Arthur, you cannot wear your hat in Salinas. Now, it's not because I'm a Trump supporter, although it's, make California great again. It's because it's red. Because you've got the Crips and the Bloods have moved all the way up to Salinas along with MS-13, the legal alien invasion. They have even banned wearing red and blue in the schools. That's how bad it's gotten. And they'll suspend a student just for wearing one of those colors. But one of the ladies there is strong. Her name is Lisa. And she said, I refuse to be afraid. And I'm glad I could be there with her. And we made an incredible showing there. Monterey County, one of the bluest counties in the state. People have written it off. And then we went up to Santa Cruz a little afterwards. For me, I want to see this fight against sanctuary state in every single county.
Amen.
Including San Francisco, San Benito, Imperial County, and not just in North State, and I want everybody to know about it.
Yep.
But thank God for Orange County, because we have seen the fight so prominently here. Regardless of the media spin or the political rhetoric, we know that SB 54 is protecting illegal alien criminals.
Yep.
It is astonishing to me. Darlene has been there, John has been there, Elvira was at another city council meeting last year that is a sanctuary city, Cudahy. And it's amazing how people will bend over backwards to defend SB 54. We're protecting immigrants. And I really, really hate how they use that term for illegal aliens. To me, an immigrant means that you came through the front door, you came through the right process, and you became a citizen the right way. You don't use that term for anybody else. So, it disgusts me they call it the Values Act. Nothing but. And as we know, it has turned California into a stomping ground for MS-13, for violent criminals. It's put up a big welcome sign to the world, to other states, that their illegals can come here, commit crimes, and they know that they won't have to worry about being deported. Now, why Sacramento lawmakers would want to protect these foreign national criminals, it's just beyond me. It is anti-American, it is cultural Marxism lunacy. We can defeat it, we must defeat it. I want to articulate for you, as I did at the meeting earlier in downtown Los Angeles, not only is SB 54 and all sanctuary policies that descend from it, not only are they unsafe, not only are they immoral, but they are unconstitutional.
Yes.
So spare me your feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings. The law doesn't care about your feelings. We have to really understand this. This law is attacking our very fiber. As a country, our sovereignty, our citizenship. Yeah. People want to come to this country because citizenship means something. I have rights given to me by God, and we have a government that works for us because we created it, and it has to abide by our expectations. That doesn't happen in Mexico. That doesn't happen in China. That's not happening in some European countries even, in the Eastern Bloc. Even after the fall of communism, we're still seeing dictatorships. We have something very special here. And this open border perversion is wreaking havoc on it. So, once and for all, I'm sharing this with you. Thank you for recording us, and you're recording me too. Appreciate it. Okay, let's make this really clear. Yes, indeed, our Constitution does speak to immigration. Because I hate to say it, but even a city council member in Costa Mesa had suggested, I've read the Constitution. I don't see anything about immigration in it. Wrong. She ultimately voted the way we wanted to, no less. But here's the deal. Article 1, Section 8. Provide for the common defense and welfare of the United States and establish uniform rule of naturalization. Now, people look at naturalization and they want to narrow it, and they'll say, well, that's just the process where you get a piece of paper that makes you a citizen. No. Naturalization speaks of the entire process. How you get here, by what right you get to stay here, and how you become a citizen that participates in our constitutional compact. It is a comprehensive pact. It's not limited. The preamble of the United States Constitution couldn't make it clearer. We the people of the United States. Not we the people of the world. We the people implies we the citizens, not we the illegal aliens.
Amen.
Those were my first remarks to the city of Huntington Park, August 17th, 2015. When that city appointed 2 illegal aliens to city commissions.
It's
And Kevin De
happening.
Leon just appointed an illegal to a state commission. This is a broad affront. What I'm hoping is you don't just get angry hearing it, but you start doing something about it. And that should be one of your talking points to some of the outstanding cities in this county which still just don't want to join with the rest of their sister cities for some reason. I've settled that issue. Now I want to put aside once and for all, because I get so tired of hearing this from all of these SJWs, brown supremacists, open border bigots, that the 10th Amendment provides a safeguard for the states and the cities to, disregard or ignore ICE detainers or other immigration laws. The fact that I just explained to you, Article 1, Section 8 makes it very clear. Immigration is a federal issue. It is not something that has been left out that the states and the people can take. And don't get me wrong, the 10th Amendment has been much abused, and we need to see it restored. The feds do have too much power in many other facets of our lives, but when it comes to immigration, it's a power that does belong to them and should belong to them. Now, I've called them sanctuary jurisdictions. I think it's also fair to call them outlaw jurisdictions, because honestly, sanctuary, that's a word that comes from the Bible. It refers to people who accidentally killed somebody and they flee to a city of refuge. We're talking about people who break into our country. Where's the sanctuary for us? So, this policy may sound sanctuary city. It sounds humane, it sounds nice, but the fact is that sanctuary cities are attracting crime. We just need to be very blunt with the opposition. They are lying through their teeth to public officials and to the press when they say that sanctuary jurisdictions do not increase but decrease crime. That's a bold, flat-out lie. We have seen sanctuary jurisdictions, as they've increased exponentially across the country, the crime rates have exploded with them. Big reason we see these transnational gangs coming in, harassing our police now, for example. SB 54 has attempted to turn California into a sanctuary state. It prevents local and state law enforcement from communicating and sharing information with federal law enforcement officials, including immigration, customs, and enforcement. There are two other laws I want to refer to briefly because they are the subject of the lawsuit from the Department of Justice. AB 450, which prohibits private employers from cooperating with federal immigration officials, and AB 103, which imposes a state-run inspection review over federal detention facilities. I mean, I can go back to 12th grade civics, McCulloch versus Maryland. The states do not have a power over the feds. They can't do that. I mean, that's just prima facie obvious. They are direct violations of our Constitution. As I mentioned, Article 1, Section 8, those are powers that belong to the feds. The states have no right to intervene, interpose, or interdict the enforcement of those laws. But a couple of people pointed out to me another section of the Constitution, something that I haven't paid attention to. There's so much about our Constitution, as small as it is, we have so much to really pay attention to. There's so much of it that I haven't been informed about myself. Article 4, Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. So let me make it really clear. It says a republican form of government. That means a representative government where the rights of all are protected, even though there's a process of representation. Of course, I would love to see a Republican partisan government in every state too. And incidentally enough, Barack Obama made that happen in at least 35. But the idea is essentially the rights of all are protected, there are no special privileges, minority rights are represented, but everybody sends representatives to a government. That's the basic idea. But it's right there, to be protected against invasion. Illegal immigration is an invasion, folks.
Yes, it is.
It is an aggressive agenda, not just about economic migrants, but we have terrorists who are crossing our border. They have caught Pakistanis, they've caught Somalis, they've caught Saudis with malicious Islamic terrorist intent crossing our borders. This is an invasion. Our federal government has every right to be involved in stopping this. Honestly, President Trump ought to just say, hey, I have the power, and just direct a wall to be built. I really don't see why we have to wait for Congress. Just the appropriation part, sure. But I mean, there have been some arguments, and I think they deserve looking at, that he could just order it, because the Constitution outlines the need to protect every state. Now we have, in contrast, our California Attorney General has filed over 30 lawsuits against the Trump administration. I mean, this is beyond lunacy. Our own charter makes it clear. He has every right to do this. This is political posturing at its worst. And funny enough, the other Democrat running against Becerra is referencing these frivolous lawsuits as one of the reasons that he should get elected. Interestingly enough, he actually, as a Democrat, he's saying there's too many lawsuits against Trump. But of course, I would, full disclosure, I support Steve Bailey. I would definitely encourage you to support him in the primary to be our next Attorney General. So I mentioned Article 4, Section 4. Last of all is Article 6, Section 2. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. This is the supremacy clause. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. Right there, folks. We need to reassert this. I have seen so many and heard so many of our politicians, they take that oath of office, and yet we see so many of them now blowing off that oath, blowing off that promise. Huntington Park was a clear example, appointing 2 illegals, but they had taken an oath 3 months prior to uphold and defend the United States Constitution. Anything in the state constitution, any state law which is in conflict is void. Federal law preempts that. Or I like to say, federal law trumps state law.
Yeah. That's right.
And that's exactly what was the starting point for Councilman Kusamoto in Los Alamitos. I took an oath, and this law is in conflict with that, and we have to solve this problem. They passed the ordinance. In my view, they have perfect standing in spite of the financial pressure that the ACLU lawsuit is placing on them. So what do? In California, in Oregon too, by the way, if you didn't know, Oregon is a sanctuary state. Cities throughout the country, we are seeing this eruption of lawlessness, assaults against the rule of law, which ensures the safety and security of the very people who are undermining our safety and security, and the sovereignty of our nation and our citizens. I have spoken to so many, I've met with so many Americans, born and naturalized, and they're tired of being treated like second-class citizens. How many of you feel like you're being treated like a second-class citizen in your own state?
Yes, yes.
I was arrested in a city council meeting just for sitting there. And again, it would be nice if people pointed that out. We've got to stop with that. You were arrested because you wanted to protect life.
Yes.
So nobody should put you to shame for that. Okay? There are people in other countries who are getting arrested just because they want to exercise their God-given rights. With the attitude that seems to get presented sometimes, you'd almost wonder, what would the press say about our founding fathers? My God, you guys are crazy. You're going up against the British Empire. But they did, and they won. You support President Trump? My God, this guy has a disorderly private life. This guy's had some bankruptcies. Yeah, but the alternative was, need I say more? Well, let's go further than that. He spoke to the issues that every one of us cared about. Democrat, Independent, and Republican. And here's a fun fact. I mentioned Maywood. Elvira, you were a councilwoman in Maywood, right?
Yes.
Trump got a higher vote than Romney did in Maywood. Trump got a higher vote than Romney did also in Oakland, Inglewood, Compton. Think about that. Haven't Republicans been trying to break into these urban, heavily Democratic areas? And Trump did it. How did he do it? Somebody tell me, how was he able to get more of their vote, to get them to take another look at him? Because I can tell you, it is not the voter registration in those cities. What do you think it was?
Issues.
Which issue, though? Pocketbook, sure.
And one was health care,
Immigration. Immigration. These are historically black communities. And who has been decimated the most by illegal immigration?
The
Black
blacks.
communities. I have only read recently, in the LA Times, they finally did an article. Fire bombings were occurring in Boyle Heights, blowing out black communities by illegal aliens. There were fire bombings that were going on in my own city in Torrance. There were black youths that were getting shot down in Harbor City. In fact, I met the mother. I was turning in a rental car, and this was last August. And her son was gunned down in Harbor City. And to the best of her knowledge, it was an illegal alien who did it, but they still haven't talked about it. And nobody speaks to these issues, except Donald Trump. Who's the one who went to Michigan? Who's the one who went to Flint? Who's the one who reached out and said, hey, Democratic Party has put you onto a plantation and has abandoned you. What do you have to lose? I have been waiting for so long, and that's one of the things that really turned me to not just, I'll vote for him, but really support him. And the other thing was, of the 17 Republican candidates and the how many Democratic candidates, Donald Trump was the only one who met with the angel moms and angel dads whose loved ones had been murdered by elites. Not even Ted Cruz. I was really surprised. Because the Remembrance Project is based in Texas. This shirt comes from the Remembrance Project. And even Ted Cruz didn't meet with these families. But Trump did. Trump got no money, no endorsements, and he didn't even get media attention. When they were the focused keynote speakers at the RNC convention, the media turned away. They didn't want to hear from Jamil Shaw. They didn't want to hear from Sabine Durden. They didn't want to hear from Marianne Mendoza. The media doesn't want to talk about these stories, but we do. We need to, and we are going to. So I've spoken to naturalized citizens as well as Americans born and raised in this country. They're tired of being treated like second-class citizens. We have big business, the political, and these cultural elites. They have ignored our concerns and our needs. People like Tom Steyer, Jerry Brown, Jeb Bush, I'm going to bring some Republicans into this fold. They live behind their own big, beautiful walls. They have their private security and plenty of money. And some of these corporations, they are legally taking from hardworking people by legislative fiat, corporate cronyism. This is something also the president spoke against. But the good news is that you and me, we're remembering and we're restoring the meaning of those three words at the beginning of our Constitution. We the people. We create this government. We're the ones who give them the jobs, but it's our power that we have delegated to them. Let me remind you, we the people, it speaks to the people of the United States. That's you and me. And again, SB 54, sanctuary state policies, sanctuary city policies are just a brazen attack on our status as citizens. And I'd like to remind you, what are the last three words in the Constitution? Now this is up to the 10th Amendment. The last three words are to the people. We the people form a more perfect union. And it is up to the people, we the citizens, to safeguard and enhance that more perfect union. And everyone in this great state, we are taking back California. As I mentioned, the two counties in North State were the first jurisdictions to opt out. Then there was Los Alamitos. When I heard that Mission Viejo wanted to take steps, I said, what I've seen in Los Alamitos, I want to see in my own city, Torrance. It is also a charter city. They can pass an ordinance, an outright law, to overcome this SB 54 lawlessness. And I just took that message to every county or every elected official I could think of. And we've seen people like Darlene who have continued to go after the city of Tustin here in Orange County, which is dragging its feet for some reason. And one of the reasons I asked to be here was that you've got a number of cities here in North Orange County that just don't seem to want to play along. They forget who they're working for.
Yeah.
And I understand that the Fullerton City Council is particularly arrogant.
Yep.
Fullerton Informer has gone out of its way to expose the city council, and I hope that with what I've shared with you, with the record of accomplishment we've seen in the rest of the county, that more of you will start going to those city council meetings too. Because you as stakeholders in Fullerton, in Brea, in Stanton, in Buena Park, in Garden Grove, will remind those elected officials who they work for. Because the fact is, it starts with us, remember, we the people, and it ends with us, to the people. And as I mentioned before, this is a fight which seemed unlikely. I mean, it was like a dream to me that a city would go the other way. I've been fighting against sanctuary cities to try to reverse their policy without success, but then to see cities stepping up to say, not only will we not be sanctuaries, but we're opposing SB 54, and we will not comply. This is a fight that's moved into Monterey County, I shared with you. We want to build it up in Santa Cruz County, where all those crazy hippie college kids live, and they have a logo that's a banana slug. And they're full-on SJWs who think more of Antifa than they do of our founding fathers. This is a fight that's going to Palm Desert, Indio, and La Quinta. I mentioned Imperial County. That county is so blue, Ronald Reagan didn't win Imperial County. Both times. Wow. But people are fighting there to end sanctuary state too. And these are heavy Hispanic areas. Maybe we should stop listening to some of our party officials who say we've got to go soft on immigration. We've got to Hispander. That's the term I use. Okay? And am I out of line? To a recent study, Jeff Denham's district in San Joaquin County, heavily Hispanic, 50% of the voters don't want DACA. The only dreamers they care about are their own kids, citizens. They want the water taken care of. They want security reinforced. They want prosperity back in their districts. They don't care about amnesty. They don't want amnesty. The problem is we have a media narrative and we have a political elite narrative that wants to drown out the common voices of you and me and many others. Black communities, Asian communities, Hispanic communities. When I saw March 27th, I think, that was the Orange County meeting, the Board of Supervisors, when they took on SB 54, I saw so many immigrants, and I mean that, in its fullest sense, they came here legally, many from Asian countries, opposing a homeless shelter being shoved in their backyard. But they also saw my signs against SB 54 and others, and they said, we totally agree with you. So I've reached out to a contact in Irvine as well. Why are they dragging their feet? They're surrounded by cities which have opted out. So, I'll round up with this and then open for questions. Despite the unkind remarks of political pundits, tired academics, and I'm going to step aside this. I went to Arizona and I spoke at another Patriot gathering. And people like to joke because they know I'm from California. And they said, make California America again. And I got really tired of hearing that. And I addressed that at the podium. That was not in my speech, but I said, I get really tired of that. Because as long as I am here, California is still very much America. And every one of you should clap for that and make that claim yourself.
Yes.
4.5 million people voted for President Trump, and they weren't all Republicans. I met Democrats. Some of them in West Valley in Los Angeles, in the city, will tell me privately, I voted for Trump. You know, they're every demographic that people would say, they're Democrats, they're going to vote that way. Nope. They voted for Trump. Because illegal immigration is hitting everybody. It is an equal opportunity destroyer. Democrats in Cudahy talk to me privately because they don't want chicken heads on their doorstep. There's one Republican, his name is Jack Guerrero. That's what makes him really a strong leader. He's the only Republican in 5 cities. They're all Democrats. And he did not support the sanctuary city proposal. The only one of all those cities. And he got elected, he got the highest number of votes in his last election. And everybody knew he was a Republican. And even citizens, they told me, they tell Jack Guerrero, you need to tell people you're a Republican. So we're seeing a massive shift here. The media is collapsing. Our political elites are losing control.
Yes.
The academies are the next ones to go. Universities, that's going to be a harder,
Yeah.
that's going to be a harder rock to beat down. But I think the government subsidies have made the price of education so high that more kids just don't bother to go. So they're saved 4 years of delaying their maturity. Okay. So California is still very much America. We are one of the United States of America. We are not a lost cause. So I rounded up with why I'm here. I have a clipboard in back. I should have been passing it around. But I'd like to offer you, if you share with me your contact info, I'll get you on a list with other Orange County residents like Darlene, like others I've worked with, and we'll start getting you motivated. I'll give you the tools and how you can hit Fullerton, Stanton, whichever cities you are here in the area. Brea shouldn't be dragging their feet. To get them to join with the rest of their brothers and sister cities and the county leaders. And so with that, I'm hoping, let's make California great again. And let's make California a sanctuary for citizens, not illegal aliens.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's right. Yes.
Can you get my clipboard back there and just pass it around? It has a pin on it. Just pass it. Your information stays with me. I don't farm it out to anybody else, and you will see my contact information right at the top. I don't ask you for something unless I've given it to you first. So please, if you signed it already, don't bother. But if you want me to put you on a list so I can get you caught up to speed on how you can fight your cities, please feel free to. There are new sheets behind it. Questions? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yes.
What do you think of churches becoming sympathetic with sanctuary?
That is beyond offensive to me. As I mentioned before.
Churches.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. The question was, what are my views on churches being pro-sanctuary? That's actually a great question because that was a big coalition in Los Alamitos, the churches. You know, as I mentioned, it's such a distortion of Scripture. Sanctuary was for people who accidentally killed somebody. By the way, a little sermonette here that I learned from a pastor. That's a type and shadow of what Jesus did. He brought us all under his sanctuary because he said, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do," turning it into an accidental death. That's what theology. I just wanted to throw that out there. You see again people distorting Scripture for a political end. I think these are churches that should lose their tax exemptions. I actually wrote an article about it right for Town Hall, as was mentioned. Definitely encourage you to read it. My latest article today called out the president's very strange endorsement for John Cox. I called it that, another strange endorsement. This is like the Lucas Strange issue that happened in Alabama. Look, president's allowed to make mistakes. No human being is perfect. I still love our president. I love everything he's doing. And please give Jeff Sessions a little more patience. He has done so much to fix the immigration problems. Our immigration judges are no longer allowed to let those illegals get caught and then released. They must stay in the hold and get processed and deported. So this is big. So just give Jeff Sessions a little patience. I want Hillary Clinton in jail too.
She will be.
Okay,
Trust the plan.
Jeff Sessions' #1 job is not arrest Hillary. We just have to accept that. Okay. So the fact is, you can fight, and part of the reason I do speak to clubs is to give you tips. This is how you respond to it. In the Old Testament, it was very clear. You didn't get to come into Israel. You didn't get to break into the country. There was a process to become an Israeli. The perfect example is Ruth. Okay? Ruth, you can find it in the 5 things that she says. It's in the 1st chapter to her mother-in-law. Your God will be my God, your people my people. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Where you die, I will be buried. That is a perfect picture of assimilation. The Bible doesn't teach you can go anywhere you want to, wherever you want to. Nations are the spice of life. God made nations. And this open border agenda is anti-God, anti-Christ, anti-Judeo-Christian. I told you it's culturally Marxist.
Yes.
This idea of a one world government, it's satanic. Just like out of the account with the Tower of Babel. And it's in Revelation. So that's how you respond to this. This is not holy. This is not godly. And last of all, some of these church people, they have this idea that God's grace can't help Mexico. Like God's grace is only in America. My Bible says, for God so loved the world. Yeah. So his grace can prosper in China, it can prosper in Israel, it can prosper in any part of this world. The United States is not the savior of the world.
Yes.
We're a blessed country because of him, but not because of the boundaries when we happen to be in this section of North America. So that's how we got to start responding to that. We shouldn't be kowtowed or shamed into silence on that issue. And by the way, Darlene and I, we had such a great time outside of the federal building when DACA was finally rescinded. And we have some of these crazy trendies who come in our faces and say, but what about the children? That's my answer. What about our kids? What about our homeless? What about our foster kids? We have homeless veterans. Every time I go to downtown Los Angeles, we have a homeless veteran. And you know what? It's not because they're lazy. It's because they've been so shell-shocked. They need our help. And there are more stories. You can read them even in the New York Times. The illegal families, they do go back to their home countries and they can make it. They'll be fine. In fact, if we want to help Mexico be great again, we should stop allowing the best and the brightest to escape to come here. They need to stay there and fight for their countries, just as we did. We don't have another America, and they can do what we've done in Mexico. They can do this in Honduras, and Mexico has a wall. Why can't we?
That's right.
And the last thing, what we always say to them when they play the compassion card, you have to hold them to their own morality. So the question I ask them so plainly is, do you have a door? Do you lock it? Do you have walls for your home? Don't give us this morality where we have to take in the world if you won't start. And usually it shuts them down. And honestly, let's be very frank here. Many of these liberals are racist.
I know.
They don't like
Yeah.
black people.
That's right.
They don't like Hispanic people. They don't want them to live near them. They want these MS-13 thugs from Latin America to live in your backyard,
Yeah.
not in theirs.
Not in there.
So call them on that too. Don't be afraid, because much of the time it's true.
That's right.
So,
Where are you preaching next week?
There you go.
for real, Westminster's on board. Where's Garden Grove? Why are they dragging their feet? Lots of Vietnamese refugees who came legally live there. In fact, a guy named Quang Wong, he met me in Buena Park, and he recognized me, and I love the hat and everything, but I said to him, come with me to Westminster, because he is a Vietnamese immigrant, a refugee, and he was one of the most outspoken at the meeting, and he spoke to the Vietnamese press. He's in Garden Grove now. We got to get Garden Grove on board. Why are they dragging their feet? This is what it's about now. Let's get this done. And beyond the politics of this, because a lot of these cities are in the 39th that are dragging their feet, but we want to see this momentum to make it very clear there's not going to be one thing that stops we the people of the state of California from reaffirming the rule of law in our state. So,
Any
other
questions?
Yes,
Where does Cyprus stand? I'm in Cyprus.
that's another one that's dragging its feet.
Really? Okay, interesting.
So you're from Cyprus?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask, let me throw out the cities. Anybody from Brea? Okay, I know some people from Brea, so it's okay. Cypress, Garden Grove. Anybody? Fullerton. Okay? Make sure you leave your contact, if you don't mind. So, and I've got some other contacts, we'll help you out. Yes? La Habra, that's another one, thank you. I'm gonna miss some.
They're concerned that, you know, that they have these, I don't know what kind of arrangements they have, but they're afraid that some financial something like that.
Yeah, you know.
What's that all about?
So, and I've heard the same excuses from some of the people in Los Angeles County, normally red areas. You know, they want to have a nice relationship with the state legislature. There's certain amounts of money that come from the state, certain grants. And of course, there are the grants that come from the federal government. Seal Beach made some excuses saying, well, we can't do what Los Alamitos did because we'll get sued and we can't afford it. I mean, I don't remember the framers getting worn out because there wasn't enough money. They fought because it was right. And to me, if you have elected officials who are throwing out these flimsy excuses, then they shouldn't even be on the dais. And that's actually a great thing to say. Do you really want to have your job in June or November? Because that's, this is a blast out to Tustin. They've been dragging their feet so badly. 2 of the city council members want Todd Spitzer's seat on the board of supervisors if he gets elected DA. And I've written to them and said, we all know what your plans are. Do you still want those plans? We'll change it. You and I can change that, just like you're recalling Josh Newman, right?
Yeah.
We have forgotten, we just thought there's been such political inertia in the state of California that once these people get elected, there's nothing we can do. But already here in North Orange County, you've proved the country, the state wrong. Josh Newman is begging for his job.
Yeah.
They had half the state Senate Democratic delegation in Fullerton.
Yeah.
I was there with the bullhorn. I was the only one there at the time, but they were absolutely out of their minds. They are terrified. And you have already gotten that started. We the people have more power than we the people realize, because we've had them, the bureaucrats, them, the elitists, telling us otherwise. Donald Trump, I think, really primed that pump of that populist power we have. And it's within the rule of law, of course. I don't want the French Revolution. I want a restoration of the American Revolution. That's what we want. So with this, I can also send you the excuses that city councils give, and you'll be ready for every one of them. I have a list, and I'll provide that for you. I'll provide you the contact info so you can send the emails. I'll give you a template. You can just change it a little bit. But the most important thing is we need citizens in those cities to show up. And if you give me enough notice, I'll try to be there. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about the homeless and vagrant epidemic in our local municipalities and it as a factor of the issue?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned earlier, we're treated like second-class citizens. These illegals get the benefits, they get jobs, they get the fast track to easy housing, health care, all of this stuff. You know, a bigger aspect of the homelessness issue, though, is Props 47 and 57, which have reduced so many felonies to misdemeanors. And so the prisons are letting all these people go, including criminals with serious mental histories. and they are populating our sidewalks. And then you add to that the ACLU, which cripples cities and prevents them from enforcing their vagrancy laws. But we see too much of a demand on growing limited resources because of illegals. They're taking jobs, they are taking jobs from American citizens. A friend of mine, Chanel Temple, Black American, she lost her job as an accountant, okay? So she's a serious professional. She's a tax preparer in 4 states. She lost her job because she doesn't speak Spanish. Excuse me? This is America. Our charter is in English. There was a time when we had immigrants from all over the country. People from Ireland, they actually did speak Gaelic, okay? They didn't just speak English. And in those days, the churches expected the Irish who became Americans to act like Americans. They weren't contrary to the sovereignty of this country, they were affirming it. We've seen that fall apart because of the La Raza agenda, this cultural Marxism, which has overwhelmed churches, which is why they're now pro-open borders. We have pastors who, I don't think they've ever read the Bible. They sure don't think they believe what's in it. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about George Soros. I don't understand his...
American.
I know, right.
You know, this is the thing. You've got a guy who's just evil. And you know what? It's astonishing. How can you not ask questions? This is a Jew who helped kill Jews in the Holocaust. For starters, that's going to do something to you. You know, he opened up his door to evil, and he is evil. This guy's part of a lot of these elitists, and you can put, you know, it's hard for me to accept this, but you got like members of the Bush family. They were big on this one world government, this globalist agenda, this idea of phasing out the borders, which allows, you know, this is the progressive mindset, that there is a handful of really, really smart people who know how the world should work. So let's make sure they're in power. And one way to do that is to phase out these borders and these cultural distinctions as much as possible. George Soros is in lockstep with that. As an arrogant billionaire, he has all this money. He can just decide to sell off or invest in certain shares. It can ruin entire economies. Entire countries, excuse me, that's right. Like in Thailand, there was the Asian malaise in '97, he precipitated that, and he just had a smile on his face in a 60-minute interview. This is what we're dealing with. That's very important too. I am going to bring into this. You know, who's the guy who donated to a George Soros PAC? You know, John Cox. Big deal. That's a problem. I'm sorry. If it was $5,000, you know, we really do need to take this seriously. He is putting money into the DA's race in San Diego County. This is part of where the lawlessness is coming from. I'm sorry. Yes.
Is George Soros a citizen?
No, thank God. He's a citizen of Hungary. Hungary woke up. They have pretty much shut down his operations in that country. He's in big trouble, so don't worry. We have other countries that have awoken to this populist conservative movement. Viktor Orban is like the Hungary version of Trump. And Agnes Gibney, she's a friend of mine. She's an angel mom. Her son was killed by an illegal. She was from Hungary. She's kept me informed about that. More people have pushed against this. But ultimately, we shouldn't worry about who's spending money. Remember, you know, Hillary outspent Trump. We know how it ended.
Well, can non-citizens spend on our elections?
They are finding ways. I don't know the elections that well, laws that well. My understanding is that's not acceptable. That can't be done. But if they're able to find tax or something, I mean, I don't know how to reconcile that because you do have him investing money and nobody's stopping him. So I don't know how he's doing that. But
He's very open about it.
yeah,
He
we've
probably
got.
has independent expenditures.
But I would definitely say we could get caught up in that, but what can we do now? We as citizens, we're the ones who put these people in office, we're the ones who can take them out. And I just want to provide those steps in Fullerton. I want Fullerton to bring it back. They got overwhelmed that night because many of us were in other cities. That was ultimately what happened. But I think that we should go back and say, you have a job to do. You don't listen to outsiders who are part of La Raza, you listen to the insiders, the ones who elected you. We need to send a message, yes.
They got overwhelmed by proponents of the sanctuary city?
Yes, they did. About 109 of them. But I also understand from people in the city, they tell me how arrogant, diffident they are. That
They won't do anything about it.
yeah. You know, let me tell you something about that really quick. After I went after Josh Newman, it was up the street. I went by an abandoned bank. It was boarded up. There was a homeless lady, and she had all these trinkets set up. And I went by her briefly to say, sorry, this has happened to you. She went absolutely crazy on me. She tried to attack me. Okay, I have never been attacked by a homeless person in Los Angeles. And I'm in Orange County, and that almost happened to me. I was just astounded. I looked at Fullerton, the roads are in disrepair, I'm like, am I in Orange County? It sure doesn't look like it.
Yeah,
I was really worried.
it's bad.
You gotta get rid of Josh Newman, please. You know, this recall shows you've got a lot more power than they want you to think you have. So, is the clipboard, everybody had a chance? And again, no pressure, I always give you my info, if you don't wanna leave yours, that's fine, but at least you have mine, you can just take a photo of it, that's fine. Any other questions?
On the initiatives, anyone that you're wanting
Okay.
to, any of the initiatives that are, how many do we have on the ballot?
For this primary?
Yes.
Geez, I don't have, off the top of my head, I have voted on them, I just don't know them off the top of my head. I do just general principles. If it's a bond, vote no,
Yeah.
because the payback is twice as much. The interest, we have so much bond money as it is, that hasn't even been spent. There's an initiative about the 2/3 vote needed to spend cap and trade money. That's, someone added a wrinkle to that, claiming that it would put cap and trade in the Constitution. I don't think so. I voted for it, you know, but we're also seeing, I mean, this whole balloting by, you know, legislating by ballot box is really hurting us. Full admission, I voted for Prop 47 because I understood that it was going to drug possessors, it would reduce them. I think people need help. I don't think you should lock up somebody with a gram of pot. It's hurting our jails. I want criminals, I want illegals who kill Americans in our jails. Well, better yet, I'd like them deported, or even better yet, executed. That's what Mexico does. But, you know, and lo and behold, we see a whole bunch of nonviolent felonies. And by the way, that adds to what Sheriff Hutchins has had to face. She's had to release people who've committed child cruelty, sex with a minor, domestic violence. And a lot of these have turned into wobblers that get reduced to misdemeanors. So they're protected by SB 54. So the argument that some of these pro SB 54 people make, well, this law, there's a whole category of crimes that still can be reported to ICE. Here's the other thing. The law itself says this. That is up to the county sheriff. They don't have to report it. Even if it's murder, they actually don't have to report it. It's in the law. It is a full-on break between the feds and our law enforcement. And not only that, but this was an upland. The chief of police brought this to everybody's attention. I was there for the meeting. The chief of police has said, now we're not sure if we can work with the Department of Homeland Security because they're part of ICE and ICE is part of them. They worked with the feds to stop drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and human trafficking. And because of SB 54, now they're not sure they can do that. I mean, this bill has had beyond unintended consequences. That's more than enough to go back to those city councils and say, why aren't you opting out yet? Question mark. There should be no delay. None. So I hope that answered it. About the props, that's all I can tell you off the top of my head. So, anything else? Yes?
I'm from LA County. Do you have a recommendation for sheriff?
I'm supporting Jim McDonald right now, yes.
Okay.
The Lindsay guy registered as a Democrat because he was told to, and right away I have a problem with that. If you're just doing what your consultants tell you, I have a real problem. Also, McDonald has been a vocal opponent of SB 54. He sacrificed a lot of political capital opposing it. Now, he gave the humanitarian reason, which is legitimate. ICE now has to go into neighborhoods, endangering themselves. And yes, they round up everybody else. They're coming after MS-13. They're coming after MS-13's grandma and grandkids and anybody else they sweep. Now, I don't have a problem with that myself. However, the fact that these illegals are released onto our streets to commit more crimes, just like what happened with Libby Shaw in Oakland, she tipped off ICE, those illegals scurried, and they committed more crimes. And besides, it saves us time. You know, the last argument they give, Kevin DeLeon gave it in Westminster, we just don't want our local and state law enforcement to have to spend money on doing ICE's job. Actually, now they have to spend more money because these illegals are back on our street. It was cheaper to let ICE be in the jails and a quick transfer and deport them. And now SB 54 took that away. And by the way, with McDonald, the reports are unofficial, but ICE is still working effectively. They found ways to let ICE know about their illegals, and this is McDonald at the top of the heap on that. And last of all, it's kind of a cynical thing, but nobody's gonna dislodge this. This is sheriff, and most people don't pay attention, and, but I'm not, this isn't just like resignation, vote for McDonald, but to me, he has a track record. Lindsay, you register as a Democrat because your consultants tell you to. I have a real problem with that. Are you gonna switch because of other things too? That's my opinion. It really is. Where are you in LA County, by the way?
Sandy Springs.
That's a city that should be coming our way too. If you leave me
You
your
know,
house.
I went to a law enforcement meeting there about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And it was amazing. We had like almost over 40 people, which in a small city town is like really great. And there's a lot of complaining about homeless and vagrant, but I felt like they were, in another couple of meetings, they could start going in the direction of addressing maybe some illegal immigration.
I want to help you start that conversation.
Yeah, and we had a great, he's a Democrat, however, he is a staunch, law enforcement guy.
Is it the city councilman? You think?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and by the way,
He's a big proponent
Yeah.
of this, the anti-crime initiative that's being circulated right now.
it's another initiative.
Yeah, it's the one that's going to upgrade about 100 misdemeanors to felonies.
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, there's one better way I can address your question, because illegals are taking all the spaces in our jails. So that's part of why we have to be overcrowded. It really is. We've got foreign nationals, there's a large talent in many jails around the country. Get rid of them. Let's, David Hernandez, I'm endorsing him for lieutenant governor. He suggested, let's build some prisons in Mexico. And let them go back. I like that idea. And then the families will be together, right? Because we're supposed to keep families together, right? Except, of course, I always counter with, these families separated forever, so please don't try to kill people. Anything else? I'm so glad I could be here. Thank you so much. And if there's anything else you want to say at me or shout at me or whatever, feel free. I'll be back there on my computer again.
Yay!
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Arthur, so you gonna post that then, or?
Yes,
You too?
I sure will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
YouTube.